Hello, and welcome to my review for TNA Genesis 2025. I've got my notes on my phone, and I'm ready to go. So, let's start things off with the pre-show, which had an impromptu match. We had an appearance from Ashanti the Adonis from NXT, who came out and issued an open challenge, which was answered by Jake Something. My thoughts on this, I put obvious something win, but no official prediction as unannounced match. So yeah, I didn't make an official prediction, but I'm sure you can all believe I predicted Jake Something to win that match as soon as his music hit. This match was pretty quick. Adonis got a little bit of offense in, but it was, it was inevitable. Jake Something wins with the Into the Abyss. Boom. One match down. A fun little way to get the crowd going, I guess, to open the show. Apparently Jake Something's babyface again now, it would seem, because Adonis was definitely playing the heel here. Jake Something's music hit in a we're expecting a pop for this kind of way, but last I remember, he'd only just turned heel and teamed up with Hammerstone, so what happened to that? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Up next was the pre-announced pre-show match, Frankie Kazarian versus Leon Slater. This was a good match. Slater looked good in defeat, which is exactly what I predicted to happen. I was like, Slater's young. I didn't realize he was actually only 20. I joked about him being 12. I thought he'd be like 23, 4, something like that. So he's actually like 3 or 4 whole years younger than I thought he was. So he's got a crazy future ahead of him, that guy. But yeah, he looked good in defeat. He was distracted by JDC, who was on commentary. And then when he went for his Swanton 450, which is incredible, the idea was that Kaz got his knees up. There was barely any contact, but still, he rolled him up, pulled the tights just about, and got the 3. So I predicted that. I predicted exactly that, basically, that Kazarian would win, but Leon Slater would look good in defeat. So 1 out of 1. Woo! And if you want to check any of these, my predictions video went up yesterday. Go check it out after you're done here and see that I did predict what I say I predicted. Next. Oh, the main show opened with Cameron Wright. I don't know who that is. Feel free to let me know in the comments if she's a big deal. I'm pretty ignorant of new music, so I'm not surprised I don't know who someone is. I didn't even know who Bad Bunny was, like, when he first got introduced to, like, WWE, so that's how sort of with it I am. Singing the national anthem, like, TNA of all companies should know the lack of importance of singing the national anthem on their shows, because TNA's always had almost a bigger international presence than home in the USA, like, presence. I just think it's such a, I don't know, I'm not gonna get into the politics of forcing the national anthem down people's throats on shows. Let's just go into the opening match, which was Ace Austin challenging Moose for the X Division Championship. My first comment is that the new title looks a lot like the old one. Like, with the comments Moose was making about it being ugly and unworthy of someone of his stature, I was expecting like a really drastic rebrand, but it's basically just the X Division title, but a bit golder, a bit sparklier. Yeah, it's basically the same title, so I don't know what all that was about. There was a really good false finish in this match when I think it was the System came down, Edwards and Myers came down, and Ace Austin took them out by leaping to the outside, then jumped into the ring, did like a springboard type move, and got speared. And I was like, oh, that's a really good finish. And then he kicked out. I was like, oh, okay, that's a really good false finish. Soon after, though, there was another springboard move where Austin was coming at Moose backwards, and Moose speared him in the back, and then speared him in the front for the 3. I thought it was a fun match, simple but effective David versus Goliath story. Of course, David wins David versus Goliath, but that's because Goliath doesn't have 2 cronies to come out and distract David in the key point of the match, so, yeah, so Goliath won this one. I predicted Moose to win and retain 2 out of 2. Yeah, I'm good at this. I hadn't even watched TNA in like 2 months before this, so I wasn't expecting to predict very well, but 2 from 2 so far. After the match, the System decided to attack Ace Austin, but Steve Macklin and Eric Young come down to make the save, and we transition into a brawl straight into the next match, which was a really fun way of doing it. So yeah, the next match was Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards versus Eric Young and Steve Macklin. I put this as a pretty standard tag match, but it was enjoyable. Like, there's not a lot of notes on this one. It was a tag team match. Like, picture a tag team match. You got it. It was that. Steve Macklin pinned Brian Myers after a KIA, and I predicted Young and Macklin to win. I almost went with the system, I think, in this one, but I switched it. So, yeah, 3 from 3. Up next, Ash and Heather by Elegance challenging Spitfire for the Knockouts Tag Team Championships. This was kind of just another standard tag team match. I did make a note. I noticed that Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke, has improved so much from her Dana Brooke days. Like, I always liked her, but I was always quite realistic about she's probably never going to do anything in that WWE Women's Division because she's not that great. And there's a lot of really good talent. I could see Ash by Elegance now being the Knockouts champion at some point. And the Knockouts division is a really good women's division. Like, that's not because, oh, she's taken a step down from WWE. It's a really good women's division. It's just, she's really improved or got much better at hiding her flaws. I don't know which it is. I think it's actually that she's improved, like, genuinely. So good for her. I'm really pleased for her. And this gimmick works really well for her. I'm not sure I love Heather Reckless being in it, but they're trying something different with her. So, you know, it's working so far. Anyway, it's not working that well because they lost with, like, an assist, sort of like an alley-oop into a powerbomb. Like, one of them threw Ash up into the powerbomb, and like it was like an assisted pop-up into a powerbomb, which I guess is Spitfire's finisher, so I'm doing a bad job of explaining it when everyone probably knows what they did. But yeah, they pinned Ash, actually, which surprised me that Ash by Elegance was the one taking the pin. I think. I think they were both dressed as Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders and had the hair quite similar, and white girls with blonde hair, so there's a chance I had the wrong one, but I'm pretty sure it was Ash that got pinned. Anyway, I predicted the By Elegance sisters to pick up the win here, so that's my first wrong prediction of the show. 3 out of 4. Spitfire retain. Next, we had a replay of the finish of Frankie Kazarian versus Leon Slater. Then we had an interview with Kaz. He put over Slater, actually, a little bit, and then put himself over, of course, because he's Frankie Kazarian, the king of TNA. And then he teased that he might cash in later, which, you know, kind of, to me, suggests he probably doesn't, at least not successfully, because, you know, they like these sort of things to be a surprise, wrestling companies, so when they tease it, like, I know WWE did it with, like, Big E announcing it on Twitter the day before, like, during the day before Raw, but usually those sort of events are surprises, so yeah, I fully didn't expect him to cash in successfully after hearing that. Up next was Tessa Blanchard versus Jordynne Grace, and in my predictions video, I stayed relatively clear of making too many comments about Tessa Blanchard. I'm going to make comments here. So, there were loud boos for Blanchard during her entrance, which I get because of all the controversy around her and the allegations made against her, which I think are generally accepted as being true. Here's my take. If you're going to a TNA show anytime soon and you want to object to Tessa Blanchard being back, silence is better. Shut up and turn your back. If the whole crowd just shut up and turned away and looked away, maybe not for the whole match. I'd do it for the whole match. I think that'd be really impactful. I know that's harsh on Jordynne Grace. I actually thought, because I was thinking this and I was like, oh, I'd feel bad for Jordynne Grace though. But what you could maybe do is turn your back and then just constantly chant for Jordynne Grace, no matter what, because you don't even know what's happening because you're not paying attention to the match. So you just, you know, do a clap, 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 Jordynne Grace, clap, 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 for the whole match or something. Yeah, would probably be a good compromise, so that you're letting Jordynne Grace, it's nothing personal, it's her, it's something personal with. Anyway, there was a little girl with a Tessa Blanchard sign, and that just made me sad, because, like, yeah, this is why you don't let people like Tessa Blanchard be stars on TV, because that girl now sees her as a role model, because she's good at the wrestling bit, and she's not a role model at all. There was a "she's a racist" chant aimed at her, which was great. I will say I'm a little disappointed in Tom Hennepin, which was, he basically said, yeah, there's some external things with Tessa Blanchard, but we're just focusing on the sport. And I just put, well, you shouldn't be. Like, no. So for me, I know there's a lot of people that are like, separate the art from the artist and blah, 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 blah. There's a few things. One, TNA's done absolutely fine without Tessa Blanchard for like 4 years. So we don't need to separate the art from the artist. Two, I think that applies much better when the artist has finished producing art. Because this isn't about separating the art from the artist. This is about Tessa Blanchard having been racist and abusive to a bunch of other wrestlers, now doing what many, many, many people consider to be an absolute dream job and probably getting paid quite well for it. That bit is what's not okay with me. Like, to bring up a very controversial name from wrestling, Chris Benoit. The difference for me is I can go back and watch old Chris Benoit matches because he in no way benefits from that. It's all already happened. If Tessa Blanchard got completely blacklisted from wrestling and people wanted to go back and watch her matches and be like, she was pretty good though, wasn't she? I'd be okay with that. It's her having a present day career in what is a dream job for many, many, many people that I don't agree with. I think she should be blacklisted. I think she should go away and stay away. That's my take. End of. And if you don't agree, is Tessa Blanchard specifically doing some professional wrestling more important than taking a stand against racism? Like, I'm not trying to cancel all of professional wrestling here. I'm just trying to stop one person from doing it. Like, when TNA, as I just mentioned, has a stacked women's roster. Granted, apparently they're losing Jordynne Grace, which is a big loss. But in terms of in-ring talent, maybe it's a similar replacement, but it's not a similar replacement. People love Jordynne Grace. People do not love Tessa Blanchard. Anyway, the match itself was fine. Like, I'm not going to deny that Tessa Blanchard's quite good at the wrestling bit. I'm not one of those people that can't separate it in terms of, like, my analysis of it. Yes, she's pretty good at it. Jordynne Grace is really good at it. They had a good match. But it's hard to be invested in a match where you don't want one of the people to be there because of the type of person they are in real life. I did take joy in Tessa failing to remove the bottom turnbuckle several times throughout this match. Thought that was funny. Her getting, people getting mad at inanimate objects is always funny. When it's a bad person getting screwed over by an inanimate object, I'm like, maybe there is a god. Anyway, they still did the DDT onto the turnbuckle, the padless turnbuckle spot, even though there was clearly a pad there. And it was, Jordynne Grace got her foot on the ropes anyway, or I think she grabbed the ropes actually with her arm. So it's hard to tell because her arms are like the size of my legs. So, because she's massive. But, like, she's absolutely hench. But yeah, it wasn't even for the finish of the match, so they could have just abandoned that spot, to be honest, when it wasn't working. Anyway, then Tessa removed another turnbuckle pad, and then very deliberately bulldogged Jordynne Grace onto the metal ring, and then hit the Magnum, which is like a top rope code breaker for the 3. Now, I have a few problems with this. First one is doing a code breaker from the top does no more damage to your opponent than just doing a code breaker. All it does is hurt your back more because you're falling from higher. Your opponent is not. There's no extra momentum for your opponent hitting your knees. My second problem with this is, and I'm talking from a wrestling perspective, I'm not talking about the fact that Tessa Blanchard won. That's a whole separate problem. I predicted Jordynne Grace just out of principle. I even said in the predictions I was pretty sure Tessa was going to win, but I refused to predict it. But my other problem with it is Tessa Blanchard, twice in front of the referee, intentionally removed the turnbuckle pad. Well, once and a half, intentionally removed a turnbuckle pad, and then slammed her opponent face first into a piece of metal she had intentionally exposed. That should be illegal, right? That should be a disqualification. Like, so when one gets removed accidentally, or the referee doesn't see who removes it, I understand they can't disqualify someone because they can't argue that it was an intentional cheat. Same as when someone slides a chair into the ring and then someone DDTs someone onto it, and they can just argue, oh, I didn't know the chair was there. But if the referee watches you go and get a chair, pick it up, place it on the mat, grab your opponent, stand over it, look down, and then DDT onto it. Surely that's a disqualification. And that's no different than bulldogging someone onto an exposed turnbuckle that you have intentionally exposed. So that should have been a DQ win for Jordan Grace, in my opinion. It was done right in front of the referee. Don't like it. Don't like it for many reasons, but even if it weren't Tessa Blanchard, I would still be like, that's a disqualification. That's not a good finish, in my opinion. Anyway, yeah, I put here in my notes, intentional use of exposed turnbuckles should be DQ. More importantly, racists should not be celebrated in wrestling or anywhere. Yes, there we go. Well done, me. I agree with me. Next match, Josh Alexander versus Mike Santana in an I Quit match. The start of the match was interesting, with Josh Alexander making a point of trying to keep the match in the ring because he's a wrestler, and Mike Santana wanted to take it out onto the outside and turn it into a street fight because he's more of a fighter. And I liked that. I liked both men wanting to fight their type of match, and it was a bit of a tug-of-war over which match was going to take precedent over the, over the first few minutes. Obviously, it's going to descend into a street fight because it's a no DQ style match, so it's going to end up being that type of match. But I liked Josh Alexander trying to keep it a wrestling match to start with. Oh, they announced earlier in the show that the Northern Army, I think it might even have been on the pre-show, that the Northern Army were banned from ringside for this match, which it's no disqualification, so I don't know how you enforce that, but it was a good way of making sure the match was one-on-one, and I think definitely helped the match. It was a really fun wild brawl. A really fun moment with Santana no-selling the C4 spike. Like, commentary really sold that as well. They were like, no one even kicks out of it, and Santana just got, like, spiked and then just sort of stood up out of it and, like, screamed or growled or whatever he did at Josh Alexander. It's a really cool moment. I really liked it. He zip-tied Josh Alexander, because obviously that's been Josh Alexander's MO for the last several months, is zip-tying someone's hands behind the back. And then after a bit of offense and Josh refusing to quit, he threatened to basically curb stomp him onto the corner of the ring steps, and Josh Alexander was like, no, I don't want any of that, thanks, I quit. And I predicted Santana to win, so 4 out of 6, we're back on track, woo! Then afterwards, Mike Santana demanded that Josh Alexander shake his hand like he said he would, and Josh Alexander did, and then quit TNA. Which I think I heard he is actually leaving. His contract is actually up. So I don't think it's a storyline. I think he just put over Mike Santana on the way out. He even said in like the promos building up to it, as long as I'm around, you'll never be the guy. Well, he's not around now, so it was all very nicely tied in, actually. But yeah, Josh Alexander gone. If both of the rumors are true and Jordan Grace and Josh Alexander are both gone after tonight, that's some big losses for TNA. And that's some big losses, and I can't help but think that they tie in to the treatment of Scott D'Amore, and there's going to be more to come, where it's like, okay, well, we're still under contract, but we're not signing a new one when it's up. And I think that might really start to bite them as contracts come up. Anyway, next match, Rascals challenging the Hardys for the tag championships. Fraxium from NXT came out. The NXT tag champions came out at the start of the match to watch, which was fun. They placed folding chairs on the entrance ramp and sat in them. And then, of course, at some point in the match, Trey Miguel came flying out the ring, missed Matt Hardy, and took out Fraxium. So they got removed. And apparently, I missed this bit, but apparently Fraxium versus the Rascals has been announced for this week's Impact. So that's fun. That'll be a really fun match. I don't think it's for the titles, so it keeps the result a bit unpredictable as well. So that's nice. This was a fun tag match overall. It was a tag team match, honestly. Like I said about the previous two. I find it a bit hard to watch the Hardys these days. I really used to like the Hardy Boys. But the way they move now, especially Matt, like, I just feel bad for them. Like, I just feel bad, especially for Matt. Like, he walks with a permanent, like, hunch, and he sort of takes tiny little steps, little old man steps, because his body's been through the ringer so much that he's probably got like the wear and tear on his body that like an average 70-year-old would, and yet he's still professionally wrestling. So fair play to the man, and fair play to both of them, but because Jeff's taken even worse bumps over his career, but seems in a bit better shape than Matt somehow. I guess Matt doing that leg drop off the middle rope all those years really messed his back up. So, you know, I'm not saying I want them to stop, I want them to retire, like, that's entirely their choice, but I do find it a little bit sad and I can't think what the word is, but I feel sympathy for them when they're wrestling. Not in a, oh, they're getting beaten up and this is babyface sympathy. In a, oh, those guys have, like, messed up their bodies for our entertainment over the years kind of sympathy. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And that's why I thought the Rascals would win this match, because, like, I don't think the Hardys at this stage in their career, when they're moving like that, need to be the focal point of the tag division. But I think they're doing a little bit of an unofficial retirement tour at the moment and just taking on everyone, and they're doing it with the titles, and I guess that's fine. So, the way the match ended was Wentz went for his UFO cutter and got shoved to the outside, like, big bump onto the outside. And then Miguel got hit with the Twist of Fate and the Swanton for the 3. Yeah, this match was fine. No real complaints. Just another kind of standard tag match. I predicted this one wrong, so I'm on 4 out of 7 now. But I'm still over 50%, which, considering I haven't been watching the product, I'm pretty pleased with. Next, we had a Chris Bay video package. I will say very little about this, except get well soon, Chris Bay. Wishing him all the best, of course. And TNA should probably, instead of doing a GoFundMe and promoting his GoFundMe, like, help him out themselves. They have enough money to be signing, like, some big names and and what have you, and like, look, TNA has been going out of business. I joked about this on Threads when someone said the WWE deal is the final nail in the coffin. They're going to be out of business soon. I was like, TNA have been going out of business for 20 years. The area they clearly don't struggle in is financial support, because whether they're profitable or not, they just keep on keeping on. So help Chris Bay out, guys. Come on. So, like, I don't want to make it about this, because I really don't think it is, but I'm just going to point out it's not a good look when you hire Tessa Blanchard and don't help Chris Bay with surgery for an injury that he suffered in your ring, wrestling for you, entertaining your fans, making you money. It's not a good look. Not a good look. Santino was announced. It was either he did announce it or commentary announced it, I can't remember, but that he'll address the Josh Alexander situation on Impact, which will be a live episode, which is fun. First one in 8 years, I think they said. So maybe Josh Alexander's not quite done yet, and he's going to have like one more match on his way out, put one more person over, or maybe it'll just be Santino thanking Josh Alexander and wishing him the best in his future endeavours. I guess we'll have to tune in on Thursday to find out, won't we? Up next was the Knockouts Championship match, the Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Rosemary challenging Masha Slamovich. I put that this was a fine Clockwork Orange House of Fun match, but it felt like it was slightly lacking somehow. Like, they used some fun weapons. They used, I've forgotten the name of it, but the big stick with the nails sticking out of it that has a name that Abyss introduced. I've just blanked on its name. I only watched this a couple of hours ago and I've already forgotten its name. So they used that, they used thumbtacks, they used tables, they used a board with barbed wire on it, they used all sorts of stuff. I just somehow didn't, even despite all that, didn't feel that brutal. I don't know what was lacking. I'm certainly not one of those wrestling fans that's like, there needs to be buckets of blood for it to feel like a brutal match. Because it wasn't that was missing. Maybe that would have helped in this instance, but I don't think it's that was missing at all. And I'm not quite sure what it was, but this one didn't quite live up to my personal expectations for it. Knowing how good I think Masha is, and knowing how good Rosemary is as well, in my opinion, and also how good, how suited to these sort of matches her gimmick and seemingly she is. But yeah, this just felt like it fell short. It was still good, but I expected more of it. I expected more. Slamovich won with a pulling pile driver through a bunch of chairs from the middle rope, like chairs set up in the way that they're ready to be sat on, but the seats are facing, like basically touching each other. Yeah, she did a very safe looking, and that's not a criticism, like that's a compliment. Very safe looking pile driver through those for the win. And I predicted Slamovich to win, so 5 out of 8. Technically 6 out of 9 if you count the fact that obviously I predicted Jake something, but 5 out of 8 on proper predictions. And then, Cora Jade showed up. NXT's Cora Jade. And that's never a bad thing, guys. That is never a bad thing. And she squared up with Masha Slamovich. So I guess on one show or the other, there's going to be a TNA Knockouts Championship match with Cora Jade challenging Masha. Probably losing. Fine with that. The fact that there's a longer term deal in place, though, maybe some titles could cross the line, as it were, as the term they like to use, because that was an old TNA term. So maybe Cora Jade could be Knockouts champion for a bit. I think most titles are going to stay in their own company's hands, though, is my opinion on it, so maybe not. But either way, happy to see Cora Jade anytime on my TV. Then before the main event, Santino came out with Gia Miller, the interviewer, Mark Henry, David LaGrecia, I think is how you actually pronounce his name. I think Santino pronounced it LaGreca. And Tommy Dreamer for predictions for the main event. Gia Miller didn't predict anyone. She predicted it would be either Nick Nemeth or Joe Hendry that won. So, one out of one for her. Mark Henry predicted Joe Hendry. Dave LaGrecia from... he's from Busted Open, by the way, if you're not sure who that is. Predicted Nick Nemeth. And Tommy Dreamer got interrupted by Ryan Nemeth and didn't ever make a prediction, even though after Ryan Nemeth was done, Tommy Dreamer had a microphone and just didn't make a prediction anyway. Santino banned Ryan Nemeth from ringside, and then he got hauled off by security. And then the main event started with Ryan Nemeth showing up with a ticket. By the way, they'd just been bragging on commentary about how the show was sold out, so how did he get a front row ticket that late? Like, that late notice? Like, make it make sense. This match was good. Like, I really enjoyed this match. These two work well together. Obviously, everyone was behind Joe Hendry in this one. Nick Nemeth kind of played into that a bit, kind of played the heel a little bit, as he is definitely very good at doing historically. Frankie Kazarian tried to, teased cashing in at one point, brought his trophy down to the ring, and then John Layfield clotheslined him again. And then knocked out Ryan Nemeth, who jumped the barricade, and no security did anything, even though a fan with a ticket jumped the barricade. He's banned from ringside. Security were told this and took him away from the ringside area, but didn't do anything when he got into the ringside area, so go figure. Anyway, so Nick Nemeth kicked out of a standing ovation, and Joe Hendry kicked out of a danger zone, but then the second standing ovation was enough, and Joe Hendry is your new TNA World Champion. Great, like, everyone's happy. Like, I predicted it. I predicted that 6 out of 9. Correct, but in my predictions, I said I could see Nick Nemeth winning it, but if they do that, like maybe with the official heel turn, if they do that, they're risking delaying the gratification too much. So I'm glad they actually pulled the trigger. They can still turn Nick Nemeth as part of his campaign to get the title back. They can still turn him and align him with John Layfield or whatever they've got planned in the end. Yeah, they can still do that, but them not doing it here and instead giving Joe Hendry the win was definitely the correct decision in my opinion. The crowd loved it, I loved it, everyone loved it. You know, like, let's be real, you know, Joe Hendry's really popular at the moment and you got to capitalise on that. Also, there's a Royal Rumble coming up at the start of next month, and it'll be fun for him to show up in it with the TNA World title, because he's showing up in it either way, so may as well give him the title to show up in it, right? I'm sure that's not the main reason they did it, but it doesn't hurt as an extra reason, does it? Yeah, this show overall, that's the end of my notes, but I'll just give my thoughts on the show as a whole. I thought this was a good show. I thought there wasn't much that stood out as, like, truly exceptional on the show. There was no match of the year contenders, in my opinion. There was nothing like that. But start to finish, it was solid. It was solid, it was enjoyable. I don't think there was anything on the show that I thought was bad. It was good or better throughout the show, which is good. It's solid. It's not going to be one I revisit particularly, I don't think. But still, good show. I enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know how you did on predictions and what you thought was right and wrong decisions, etc, etc. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a like if you enjoyed this review, and subscribe so you don't miss my future predictions, reviews, and other wrestling content. But for now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.